Hello, Derek.
Yeah. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Sounds like my audio is bad. Hold on. I'm going to try to plug in it again.
What are you using there?
A headset, a Jabber headset. That's better.
How
Can
you
you hear me?
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah.
How was your
I
July?
am sunny, full of food, so good.
That's a good thing. I saw on Twitter you're messing around with Kubernetes.
Oh my gosh, it's just kind of crazy to me. Um, it's just crazy to me how that works. And I can imagine, I don't know, people try to start using it and then they don't know how, when it doesn't work right, they don't even know where to begin, right?
Right. Right.
Um, so I yeah, it's crazy. The amount of things I had to disable or enable or tune in order to get it to not be slow is pretty crazy. And this is just an Ubuntu. I have an Ubuntu, desktop, but that has a server profile. Just happen to have the GUI on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy. And how go the Bash lessons?
Well, there's some up there that are pretty straightforward for you to review on the PTR site.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I don't know if you looked at them.
I glanced at them.
But good. I changed up the next stage. It's more practical. I wrote in order to demonstrate like if then else. I wrote a script that validates if a string is a valid IP address or prefix.
Mm-hmm.
That's just written in pure, Unix stuff. No other language.
Mm-hmm.
So the text is almost written for that. That one's we'll see how that goes when I launch that. But it's a little more intimidating because there's a lot of stuff in there
Yeah.
that we haven't talked about yet. That's talked about in subsequent lessons. But I'm making the assumption that you'll be able to see the if then else bits and get a high level idea of what's happening.
Okay. How many are you planning to do? How many lessons?
Well, there's one lesson, and I'm planning to do 7 or 8 stages in the lesson, and that it'll culminate with we're gonna apply everything we just did for like a script design pattern.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah, I'm actually looking at a simplified explanation of how when you use SSH to log in, how the shell is launched and attached to your SSH session.
Mm-hmm. Ethan said he's in the middle of a podcast, so I know he's not going to be on. I don't know if anybody else is coming from the Juniper side.
Yeah. Um, mm, we'll see what's going on here. We'll wait a couple more minutes. I think Matt was supposed to join us.
Okay.
And I don't see him online.
I know Matt did a Datanauts episode on NRE. Let me see when that's supposed to publish.
Oh, when was that? I don't think I was able to join for that one.
Oh, it's posting tomorrow. Yeah, it looks like they recorded on the 24th.
What, 6 days ago?
Is that possible? Yeah, it looks like. Unless that's just when Ethan updated the card.
Huh. I mean, we've talked about Unreal Labs before on Pack of Bushes, haven't we?
We did, yeah. We did an episode too. But this is the Datanauts show, so they reach a slightly different audience. like Lisa has joined.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. I thought you guys would have started long since.
No, it's just we talked a little bit just about the bash lessons.
Okay.
Matt isn't online yet.
Okay. Let me go, Matt. I assume you already pinged him.
He's not online, so no.
But Lisa, to bring you up to date, I don't know if you know, but Matt recorded a Datanauts podcast with us, well, with Ethan and Chris Wall last week, and it's going to go up tomorrow. And it was about NRE.
Cool. So with regard to the bash lessons and the open config lesson and so forth, how do you want to proceed?
Well, looks like Derek's got got 3 lessons up. It looks like so. I can play with those and then do a write up on them.
Okay. And then there's also apparently an open config lesson that's been kind of sitting for a while and that we should be able to push live. Matt was thinking by the week of August 12th, if that's interesting.
I don't recall that one. Is that something that Ethan was interested in, or
That what?
that Ethan was interested in, the open config?
I don't know. It was apparently done a while ago.
Okay.
And was waiting on some platform fixes in order to be pushed, which are now ready or almost ready. And so he was thinking that would be, because it's a topic of general interest that a lot of people are familiar with or need to be familiar with, he was thinking that might be something that you might be interested in writing about as well.
Okay. Yeah, if it's ready to go, we can take a look at that one too.
Okay. Derek, can you point Drew to that? The open config one also?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to put myself on mute for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Thank you. All right. And is that one live?
No, that's the PTR. That's still in PTR.
Okay. So you'll let us know when it's pushed out live?
Yeah, as I say, Matt was thinking that it would be ready the week of the 12th.
Got it. Okay.
And then for the bash lessons, I know you kind of work a month or so out. What were you thinking there in terms of timing?
I bet I could get something posted by next week.
Okay, so those will also go out. He's thinking the week of the 12th. Again, it's dependent on a platform thingy that he's planning to push in the next week or so. So he said August 12th would be the thing that would make sense in terms of sort of publicizing it and pushing it.
Okay, I'll be out that week, so I guess I would leave it to Ethan to do any promotion.
Okay. I mean, if you want to write something up ahead of time, then just, push it that when it's ready, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll focus on the bash lessons first and try to get that written up.
Okay.
And aim to get it out by, we can say the 8th.
Okay. Or at least have it ready by the 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For the bash lessons.
Sounds good. And Matt is on his way.
Excellent. Yeah, Ethan is still recording on a podcast, so he won't be here today.
Okay.
How are things going otherwise with NRE Labs?
Good. So actually, by the end of this week, I should have the governance doc in a state that other people can meaningfully read and consume it. So I'm hoping that next week we can discuss it as a group and just kind of get the community's feedback and thoughts about what would make sense and what everybody's comfortable with and so forth.
Okay, sounds good.
So I was most of the way there, and then I ran out of time before I left for Alaska. So getting that
to Alaska?
Went to Alaska. That is to say, we spent most of the time on a boat going to and from Alaska, but we did actually set foot in Alaska.
So it was an Alaska cruise?
It was an Alaskan cruise, yes.
I've done one of those. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was actually very cool. We wound up missing Juneau because there was a medical emergency. And so they basically cut a hard right and made for the Canadian coast so that the Coast Guard, the Canadian Coast Guard, could come and pick somebody up by a helicopter and take them to the hospital.
Wow.
So that kind of put us several hours behind schedule. So we didn't make it to Juneau, but we did. By way of compensation, they took us into this other fjord, and we got to see other glaciers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and visited a sled dog camp and rode behind sled dog puppies. And as a result of this, we now have a dog of our own as of last night.
Oh wow!
not an Alaskan Husky, but
the puppies did their work, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about a dog for quite some time, but I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat. So it's clear that this is not my dog. This is other people's responsibility. But
yeah, good luck with that.
I will say the sled dog puppies were very cute.
That's funny. We also did the sled dog puppies thing. We've got pictures of our kids with the puppies.
Yes.
But we already had a dog at the time, so
so you were safe.
We were safe.
You didn't get a second dog.
We didn't. We were inoculated. What kind of dog did you get?
A mutt from the Humane Society. She's kind of she's mostly white with a couple black spots. Kind of do you remember I guess it was the Budweiser?
Yeah. Dog? Like a short-haired.
Short-haired, yeah, kind of medium size.
Mm-hmm. Cute.
Yeah, she's a couple years old. She was a stray. I mean, she seems very well behaved, so I'm not sure why she was allowed to stray. But.
That's good. I'm glad you adopted a dog.
Hey, Hey everybody, sorry I was a little late. Rough night last night, to say the least.
I hope Lily's okay.
No, she's fine. We just for the past like in the past 2 weeks, like as soon as it gets to be like, I don't know, like bedtime for her, she turns into this like she's just never happy ever. Um, and she's fine all day. But as soon as it gets to be like, 7:30, 8:30, normally her bedtime, she just suddenly becomes perpetually unhappy and keeps waking up. And then in the first place also doesn't really get to sleep. So I don't know what's going on.
Her brain's growing. She's like, no, I want to play and push more into my brain.
I guess, yeah. She's fitting as much as she can before she turns one, and then it all go downhill. Then it all goes downhill. God, I can't even talk.
Yeah, the thing is, she's sucking it out of your brain.
Exactly.
Well,
No, the thing is, she's getting ready to talk.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Sympathies.
Yes.
So
anyway, so you are going to talk about platform stuff, I think, Mr. Oswald.
Yeah, I have a few things that I can talk about. Let me do this. So, that's not what I want. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. This is what I want. So I have started working on, well, to be honest, like I started this 2 weeks ago, but I was interrupted by a few other things. So in the journey to turn the platform into something that more accurately represents what it should be long term, excuse me. We there's a few specific things that we need to take on. And I refer to them as mini projects. I brought up the idea of mini projects in a previous stand-up, and I think I overviewed the like 6 of them that I kind of want to tackle. In particular, what I'd like to show very quickly is my effort to document the first one. When I was putting together the One Ditto platform plans, the very first thing I did, and this was months ago, was I actually evangelized my ideas within Juniper to some of our the technical folks that I sort of that I solicit opinions from. The CTO team, for instance, they work with Kubernetes a lot, and so I figured their opinions would be useful. I also reached out to a few folks like Russ White and David G, just as a technical review, peer review kind of thing. That was a while back. And it was primarily in like a PowerPoint kind of format. So the first exercise that I wanted to do was convert that to just like a Google Doc. And actually, before I publish it externally and share it with everybody, I'm gonna probably convert it to something like a plain text format so I can put it in GitHub. That way, people can review it more easily. So. All of that to say, I'll show you how it exists today. Just understand the format might change, but the content should be much cleaner. Because right now it's pretty messy. In many ways, what I did was I just copied what was in a Google slide, and I just copied it and pasted it into this doc. So it will be a lot cleaner, but the content will be there and probably even a little clearer. But I'll show you how it exists today. So the first thing is to tackle is the syringe redesign. That's the first mini project, and that's the doc that I'm going to be finishing ideally by the end of the week. And when I say finish, I mean the draft. I mean converting from the really rough like copy and paste from PowerPoint into this doc into something that's reasonably easy to follow. That doesn't mean it's like the approved design, and it doesn't mean that it's finalized. What it means is the draft is ready for community consumption. So the first project is the syringe redesign. The second mini project, by the way, as a sneak preview, is going to be something related to the Antidote Web front end. We are wrapping up the engagement with Bitovi for our UX review of the front end, and that's gone very well. And we expect that they will have a lot not only to share but also to change in the front end, and we actually have budget to throw at that problem. So the second mini project will involve a lot of our wish list items for how the front end should evolve, and then of course, because they know what they're doing, the front end will probably look a lot better once they're done with it. So the second mini project is gonna effectively be a statement of work for them, as well as the rest of the community for the things that Bitovi doesn't actually do themselves. So that's next. But for now, we're just talking about the syringe redesign. I'm not going to go through all of this line by line, but I'll do a quick section overview because I do have other things I want to show. The first thing is basically an understanding of where we're at. Syringe is a single binary, which has its advantages. It's useful because it's simple. It also doesn't have any external database, so everything's contained within that single binary. So you start syringe, and it starts offering an API. You interact with that API and say, hey, I want a lesson, and it spins up a lesson for you, and it keeps track of where everything is just in its own brain. It's simple, but of course, it's a single point of failure. It also means everything's tightly coupled. So one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this redesign is to add from a modular perspective, be able to add other extending syringe with certain functionality. And then, of course, scaling concerns and the operational concerns that come with moving things out into separate processes. So pretty standard stuff, but mostly I think the thing I'm pretty excited about is the extensibility. The way that we're doing this is a model that's very popular with just sort of microservices in general. This is actually, while none of the technologies are the same, this is actually the exact same way StackStorm works. So you might see that StackStorm's part of this. StackStorm you can think of as like our event handler. So if you have certain components that do certain things, and you want, say, when a certain component does a certain task, like if a message pops up that says, hey, somebody's spinning up a new lesson, and you just want something to happen in response to that, StackStorm can listen on the message queue for those events and react to it the way that you want. And you can add that kind of functionality without changing Syringe. Syringe will talk to itself on this message queue called Nats, and StackStorm can simply react to that in various capacities, which is pretty cool. Not possible today because it's all one binary, but when it's split out like this and the internal communication is laid bare, you can do stuff like that. One of the biggest things, I didn't really mention this at the top, but one of the biggest reasons why this will help operationally is right now I have very, very little visibility into when people have problems. I can kind of look at logs and see errors, but it doesn't really help me too much. First off, on like proactive monitoring, as well as understanding where the actual problem is. It kind of really, really depends on the error and where and how good my logging is in that part of the code. So while that needs to improve, no doubt, the other thing that we can do is add open tracing functionality. Once we break this out, that'll give us visibility into how long certain processes are taking. So is the problem in the API server? Well, maybe. It could also be in the scheduler. It could be in the front end. Maybe there's a significant amount of latency between those two endpoints. Tracing kind of gives us an insight into that. So anyway, those are the sort of the high level things that I want to tackle. There, of course, as you can see, there's a bunch of rough notes that I need to reorganize. That's the main task for me this week. What we'll do, if you saw the 1.0 doc, you'll probably remember that there was a little bit of a timeline. That timeline is almost totally wrong now because we're significantly delayed from the original timeline that we had laid out. Nevertheless, this doc is not about timing anyway, regardless of what that timeline is. So what we'll do is we'll have sort of a central document that outlines when certain things would ideally get done. That might come out first, that might come out last. I kind of got to figure out what I want to do there. But this doc, regardless, doesn't have any of that. Doesn't have any of that timing or or when certain things should get done. The way that I'm going to lay these design docs out is each mini project is going to have milestones, sort of an order of operations where I believe the order that things should get done in order to accomplish the goals laid out in this doc. And of course, like I said, this is a draft. So if somebody feels like I'm putting one thing ahead of the other and I shouldn't be, then it's totally fine. We can talk about that. But this is the way that I would like to at least start down the process. So if you're wondering, what's the very first, like you see the design, you're like, okay, I guess I see what needs done. What's first? Then going to the milestones will be probably the way that you want to do that. And last on this doc, I'll mention the milestones are also it's likely that will be the interface outside of this doc. So when we do have a master doc that sort of outlines when certain things will get done, picking a milestone will be a good sort of tactical way of saying like, well, this particular task needs done by date X, that kind of thing. I also, you'll notice a lot of these are links. Those are actually GitHub issues. And so if you click on any one of these, and what I need to do is I need to add more issues for the rest of these. But say observability instrumentation, that's its own GitHub issue. And so what we can do on the sort of open source management side of things, we can have somebody sort of assign themselves to that issue, and they can take that on. I don't know where I opened it. I have way too many tabs. There it is. So we could have somebody like volunteer and say like, yeah, I would like to take on this issue, and then we sort of assign it to them. So that is pretty much it on that front. What else? I know we have a few other things that we wanted to cover. The release workflow. Do we want to go into that? That won't take nearly as long. It's just kind of straightforward.
Sure.
Cool. So basically, Derek has seen some of this, but not the final version, I don't think. So in Antidote Ops, that's our repo for where we manage basically all of the things that we use to manage NRA Labs, or rather the Antidote platform that powers NRA Labs, as well as the curriculum and anything else and all the infrastructure, basically everything, all of the operational stuff. We open source it mostly just because it's, there's no reason to not, as well as, it's kind of useful for us to be able to talk about how we're doing that. Primarily, this repo is a StackStorm pack, so it's got workflows in it and things like that. It's not the only thing that's in it, though. We've got like an infrastructure directory where all of our Terraform and Ansible configs are managed for standing up the infrastructure side of things. Platform, as you can imagine, is what we use for spinning up the platform, the Antidote platform on top of all that infrastructure. But all the other directories are a StackStorm pack. In particular, if you go to the actions directory, you can see that there's a number of actions that we use. If you go to release curriculum, this is a new workflow. It used to be that we only had one release workflow, and it was just called release. And what it would do is it would go through all the steps to release the platform and the curriculum together. And that's why in the last released version, you had 0.3.2 of both the platform and the curriculum. Now, that had some advantages because it sort of ensured that the curriculum and the platform were always in lockstep with each other. Like the curriculum was never using features that didn't exist in the platform, But it did mean that effectively we had to wait for the platform to need a release effectively to be able to release new content. And we're at the point now where we need to optimize for that. It's important. It's important that we're able to respond to new curriculum content as absolutely quickly as possible. So to facilitate that, instead of one workflow that does everything, we have two workflows, one that manages releasing of the platform, the other one that manages releasing of the curriculum. And the idea is the release curriculum workflow could be much more frequently used. So if we go to the workflows directory, you can see how this workflow actually works. And it starts off very similar to the platform workflow, but the big difference here is the way that we is frankly the fact that it's a little shorter than it used to be before, because there's a lot of things we don't need to do here that we only need to do in the platform. In particular, if you look at If you look at the platform workflow, you can see that we've got to like compile syringe and then publish Docker images for the platform, things like that. Primarily, we actually do have to build some Docker images, which I'll get into, but compiling and uploading syringe assets. And actually, there were other things in here that I took out because the platform workflow needs to change now too. But that's it's a lot shorter now. But effectively, what we do is a few things. The first three tasks are kind of like boilerplate, assigning variables to certain values based on input. The primary thing that we do here is first we create a Git tag in the curriculum repo. So we say like, if we're creating a version 0.4.0, then we create a Git tag that says 0.4.0. Pretty straightforward. What we then do is we also take the text that's in the changelog and we rotate it, and then we create a GitHub release out of that. So I'll keep this open and I'll take you over to the curriculum to see, because we just ran a test run of this workflow and you can see it in action. If you go to releases, you can see that we've got tag 0.4.0 and there's a 0.3.3 tag. I need to delete that. Normally this release would apply to this tag. So I'll fix that. But you can see that basically what we did in the workflow is we've taken the text from the changelog, all of the things that have changed in the curriculum from the last release, and we've copied it into this release. That's done automatically for us as part of this task. Now that's all well and good, but this is the most interesting part of the new workflow. This is something we weren't doing before, something that I wanted to do for a long time because it's actually this has actually been kind of a problem for us. If you go to the curriculum repo, you'll see that in the images directory, we have all the images that are used in various lessons. And so, for instance, David G built the Terraform lesson. And so what he did was he created an image based on our utility image, actually. He created a Docker image that runs not only Terraform as in the software, but also the specific provider that he built. And what we do then is we build that image and we publish it on our own Docker Hub, and then we refer to that in our lessons. And that way the image keeps being used there. Unfortunately, the way that we currently do that is we for most of our lessons, we specify no Docker tag. And what happens when you pull a Docker image, by default, if you don't specify a tag, it pulls the latest version. So whatever the latest change that was made, it pulls that down. And that's not great, because what happens then is we've gone through all this work of tagging not only the curriculum, but also the platform with a specific version. And so like if we made changes to syringe, like that wouldn't impact production. But if we made a change to one of these images, we would effectively be impacting production directly. And it makes it really hard to change to make improvements on these images if we know that it's going to maybe break production. So that's not great. So as part of the new workflow, what we're doing is we're actually building each one of these images for every release. And so we're not just building it once and then letting it sit out there. What we're doing is for every time we do a release, we're building it on demand and we're tagging it with that specific version. So if the curriculum version is 1.0.0 and we do this workflow, not only is the GitHub release going to get created like I showed before, but we're also going to be building all of these Docker images with that tag as well. And Syringe in production is going to know to use that. And so what we'll be able to do is make changes to the images without impacting production. And this works today. So I tested it a few days ago, actually, and that's exactly how the 0.4.0 release in the curriculum was published. What I need to do is GitHub's kind of funky. Apparently this tag v.0.3.3 existed, even though we didn't do a 3.3 release. And what GitHub does is it applies the release to the latest available tag. And so what I need to do is basically undo all of this and rerun it. But that's okay. This wasn't meant to be an actual official release anyway. This is more of a test run. We haven't decided if this is the next version that we want to release. The point of this is now the way that we release the curriculum is standalone. So we can kind of figure out how to establish a cadence for that and publish much more quickly, getting lessons into production much more quickly. So that is it. Are you guys there?
Am I muted or no?
You're not now.
Okay, cool. I hit it like 4 times. Before you joined, we were talking about dates when the next batch of lessons would be released, and you had given the date of 8/12.
Yeah.
Was dependent on some of these. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so so basically there were it's been a while since our last release, and what we're doing now actually is we're just rolling forward. There were a bunch of things we were waiting on just because we wanted to get a release out the door. But we knew we wanted to do this before that first release because we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to, for instance, be able to build images without affecting production. So we went through and we did this. This was one of the prerequisites for doing the next release. We're also probably a few days away from being able to run all of this within Packet, which is our bare metal as a service provider. So we're trying to do that as quickly as possible. So basically we have a lot of the hard work done. I mean, splitting off this workflow was a big part of it, and that's finished. Once like the lessons we're working on at the moment, once those are finished, we can cut a release of the curriculum, and that, like I said, that doesn't take long. It's it's fully automated, and assuming there's no problems with the Docker builds, which the latest time I ran this, they all ran perfectly. Assuming that's true, we'll be able to publish that as soon as it's done, and so hopefully we'll have a home for that new curriculum in Packet by then. And yeah, ideally we'll be able to go live with everything by no later than the 12th. Ideally we'll be ideally we'll be able to test everything in our sort of PTR version a few days ahead of that, but then come the 12th we'll switch. We'll tell DNS to point to Packet instead of Google Compute, and then we'll be done. And we're pretty excited about that for a number of reasons. Bare metal as a service provider, because it's bare metal. There's just a number of things that are better about that. First off, the servers that we picked are actually cheaper than the VMs we're using right now in Google Compute, but they're also a lot faster, like a lot faster. Going to bare metal is useful for just because nested virtualization takes a pretty significant performance impact, but also the core speed for these new servers is a lot faster. So we're hoping that the speed of actually spinning up a lesson is going to be a lot better, especially for the big ones. Like we've held off on using some of our larger images just because we know that they're going to take a little bit longer to spin up. Mm-hmm. But that's hopefully going to be ameliorated by the move to Packet. Also, Toad can probably elaborate on this, but his experience with the Cumulus image has been extremely fast. Like that thing boots very quickly. So we're also very excited about getting lessons with that.
Yeah, it boots in like under a minute. It's pretty quick.
Impressive.
It is, but they've put a lot of effort into optimizing that process. So it's hats off to them. I was surprised to learn that Cumulus, the default build can run in 256 megabytes of RAM, which is pretty incredible.
That is not
which
something
is probably
we have
why
in common.
Yeah.
Well, this is Drew. For me, it's clear for my next steps. And Matt, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Datanauts episode you recorded will be coming out tomorrow.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I was telling Ethan and Chris, like the last time I think I recorded with you guys wasn't that long ago, but you guys have gotten really efficient, because it used to be you had like a few months of lead time. Maybe I caught you guys when you were like really trying to get a good buffer going, but either way, like that's awesome.
I think partly due to the fact that Chris wasn't on a plane at that point. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Yeah. But it could be our, improving efficiency as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just say you're awesome.
Yeah, we're awesome. I accept and will pass on the compliment.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about today?
That's all that I wanted to show. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry again. I joined a little late. I feel bad about that, but we're excited. If it's not clear, we're very excited about all the failure. We're in a mode that we don't want to do a lot of. Like we don't want to make a habit out of like constipating up all these changes and letting them go all at once. Like 4 months worth of work all at once. That's not very agile. So. We'll have something to show for it. We'll have a lot of new content all at once and a lot of cool new features all at once. But I would like to return back to that more agile, like, releasing something every week or so,
right.
Every 2 weeks or so. So thanks for your patience.
No problem.
All right.
All right. Well, good to check in with you all. And yeah, I will start playing around with the bash lessons and write up a post, and we'll go from there.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, and I'll drop an email to you guys with the link to the Datanauts show tomorrow.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
All right.
Talk to you guys later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.